I used to think I was missing my childhood. Then I thought I was missing the 1980s. Then I blamed old music, old photographs, old movies, old neighborhoods. But the older I get, the more I realize I wasn't missing a decade. I was missing a feeling. A feeling that quietly disappeared without ever saying goodbye. Maybe you've felt it too. You drive through your old neighborhood. The houses are still there. The streets are still there. Even the trees are still standing. But somehow, everything feels different. Not because the place changed. Because the world that once lived there is gone. If you've ever felt that ache and couldn't explain it, you're in the right place. Subscribe and join our Gen X family, where we remember the stories, emotions, and moments that shaped an entire generation. Before we go any further, tell me in the comments. If you could spend just one more ordinary day in any decade of your life, which year would you choose and why? Not your greatest achievement. Not your happiest vacation. Just one ordinary day. I'd love to read your memories. And if this reminds you of someone who grew up beside you, share this video with them. Because sometimes the people who shared our memories are the only ones who truly understand them. I remember neighborhoods that stayed alive until sunset. You could hear bicycles before you saw them. Basketballs bounced across driveways. Parents talked across front porches. Dogs barked. Kids laughed. Nobody texted to ask where everyone was. We simply knew. Somehow, everyone belonged. I didn't know those evenings were special. None of us did. We thought that was simply life. The strange thing about memories is, they never tell you they are becoming memories. When you're 12 years old, riding your bike home before the streetlights come on, you don't stop and think, one day I'll miss this. When your mother calls you inside for dinner, you don't realize that voice will someday echo inside your mind more than your ears. When your best friend knocks on the front door instead of sending a message, you don't understand you're living inside an era that will quietly disappear. People often ask why Gen X feels so nostalgic. I don't think it's because we hate the present. I think it's because we remember what connection felt like before everything became convenient. We waited for phone calls. We rented movies. We wandered shopping malls for hours. We memorized phone numbers. We talked face to face. We got bored. And somehow, being bored led us to each other. I still remember the sound of a screen door slamming. The smell of freshly cut grass. The hum of lawn sprinklers. The glow of porch lights coming on one by one. Those weren't extraordinary moments. They were ordinary. That's exactly why I miss them. Because nobody knew they were disappearing. Maybe that's the psychology of missing an era. We aren't grieving famous moments. We're grieving ordinary ones. The ordinary moments became extraordinary only after they were gone. If these memories are bringing someone or somewhere back into your heart, please subscribe. This channel exists for people who understand that nostalgia isn't about looking backward. It's about honoring the life that shaped us. Like this video if you've ever driven through your hometown and felt like you were visiting a place that remembered you even if no one else did. And tell me in the comments. Asterisk, what ordinary thing from your childhood do you miss the most? Asterisk asterisk. Not a person. Not an object. A feeling. Maybe it's hearing kids play outside. Maybe it's neighborhood cookouts. Maybe it's simply knocking on a friend's door without calling first. Share it with us. Because someone else misses it too. Sometimes I wonder if we aren't actually missing the past at all. Maybe we're missing who we were inside that past. The child who believed summer lasted forever. The teenager who thought friendships never ended. The young adult convinced there would always be another Christmas, with everyone around the table. Time didn't just change the world. It changed us. I visited my old neighborhood not long ago. Everything looked smaller. The streets, the houses, even the park. The playground where we spent entire afternoons now looked almost empty. For a moment, I wondered if my memories had exaggerated everything. Then I realized. It wasn't the neighborhood that had shrunk. It was my world that had grown. And somehow, that realization broke my heart. I think every generation believes their childhood was different. But Gen X lived through something unique. We stood between two worlds. One where people knocked on doors instead of sending messages. One where families gathered around a single television. One where photographs were rare enough to matter. One where disappearing for 6 hours on your bicycle wasn't considered dangerous. It was considered normal. We didn't know we were watching the end of an era. We were simply living it. The hardest part isn't watching the world change. It's realizing that some changes can't be reversed. You can buy a record player. You can collect cassette tapes. You can visit an old arcade. But you can't recreate the feeling of being 14 years old on a Friday evening with your best friends, and an entire summer ahead of you. That wasn't created by the place. It was created by time. Sometimes people tell me, you should stop living in the past. I smile. Because they misunderstand nostalgia. Nostalgia isn't refusing to move forward. It's carrying gratitude for where you've been. It's remembering the people who shaped you. The neighborhoods that protected you. The simple moments that quietly built your life. Missing an era doesn't mean you reject today. It means yesterday mattered. I think that's why an old photograph can stop us in our tracks. Not because the picture is remarkable. Because somewhere inside that picture is a version of ourselves we'll never meet again. A younger face. A lighter heart. A world that still felt enormous. Sometimes I miss that person almost as much as I miss the era itself. The older I become, the more I realize every generation eventually becomes the storyteller. One day your grandchildren ask, "What was it like?" And suddenly you're trying to explain things that can't really be explained. How neighborhoods felt alive. How silence felt peaceful instead of lonely. How friendships formed without algorithms. How happiness often looked ordinary while we were living it. Maybe that's the real psychology of missing an era. We're not mourning the decade. We're mourning the version of ourselves that existed inside it. The laughter. The innocence. The certainty that tomorrow would always look a lot like today. Life had other plans. But there is something beautiful about remembering. Because every memory is proof that we truly lived. We loved. We laughed. We belonged somewhere. Not everyone gets to carry memories that rich. We do. And that's something worth protecting. If this journey reminded you of a world you still carry in your heart, I hope you'll subscribe and become part of this community. Every week we remember the stories that time almost forgot. Like this video if you've ever found yourself missing an era you can never return to. Share it with an old friend, a brother, a sister, or someone who still remembers when neighborhoods echoed with laughter instead of notifications. And before you leave, I want to ask you one last question. If you could walk back into one ordinary afternoon from your childhood, just for 1 hour, where would you go? I'd love to meet you there in the comments. Because maybe the psychology of missing an era isn't really about sadness. Maybe it's about realizing how incredibly lucky we were to live through one. Take care of yourself. And remember, some places disappear. Some people leave. Some decades quietly fade away. But as long as someone remembers, that world isn't completely gone. A part of it still lives inside us.